So today we're gonna talk about self-sabotage. That is what came up in my own regression, but that's also going to be the focus in tomorrow's workshop is establishing a sense of safety, because it is a lack of safety that is why we self-sabotage, and kind of being used to not being safe. And I think self-sabotage is something that we all experience, but there is, I think, some judgment around self-sabotage instead of seeing it as like an invitation or like a signal. Because I wrote earlier on Threads and Substack that like self-sabotage is proof that you have a fear of freedom. That on some degree, some level, there is a fear of freedom, which is why you are self-sabotaging. So like, sure, you may want something, you may want to make more money, you may want to have more love in your life. Hey, El Catrice. You may want all these things, and you have them as a heart desire, you're pursuing them, you're doing all these things, but subtly there's a fear of, what if I get them? What does that mean? And typically that what if is what creates the self-sabotage, because the what if is creating more fear than your desire. And so I wanted to really talk about how to remove either the guilt, fear, or shame around what it is that you want and desire, so that you don't sabotage it, basically. And if y'all see me looking down, I'm just looking at my notes. Okay, so first, I think I wanted to talk about, most self-sabotage isn't about not wanting change, it's about what change has been associated with the body. So this is that what if, is how does your body react to change? Especially, how does your body react to the things that excite you? And this is where we got to go back to childhood, because that's where our excitement, that's where our curiosity is. And just think about, as a child, being so excited about something, and either other people are not as enthused because they're not looking at it from a childlike wonder or that type of curiosity, or they don't got time for that shit. Like, especially when you think about parents, elders. Even yesterday, the boys were home for the weekend, and Mason was excited about something. I think he was excited about going down to the pool, or he was excited about something. I don't even know what. But he told Jameer, and Jameer was like, do I look like I care? And I got mad at her, like, why would you say that to him? Like, she was like, well, he knows I'm playing. I'm like, still, like, you just you just kill his little excitement. Like, sure, it wasn't no big deal, or like it wasn't something that she would have been excited about, but like, you got to take into consideration he's 5, and like, you just killed his little excitement to the point where he was just like, dang. And so that's the what if of having to go back to, how did we learn to contain excitement? How did we learn to contain desire? Hey, the real Sharnique. And that's going to be the indicator of how we pursue our goals, how we create safety for the things that we say we want, is going to be based off of that pattern, because we learned it at such an early age. And if you have patterns of self-sabotage, it is because at some point you feel like it wasn't safe to have the things that you want and desire, even down to needs that you don't feel safe voicing or claiming a need, and so you'll connect with people who will also not show up for you in that need. That like they too will feel like it's a burden to show up for you because maybe they don't have the capacity. Maybe it's not a need for them, so they don't understand. But the self sabotage is, even though I know I need this, even though I know I want this, and maybe I even have the capacity to receive it, but I'm going to seek out scenarios and experiences that confirm my belief, that confirm my pattern. And if we don't know the pattern, if we don't know the belief, we'll continuously try to create and figure it out and use our logic to try to pursue our goals instead of taking it back a step of like subconsciously, how am I trying to protect myself from actually obtaining this thing? Because our subconscious is always in the realm of trying to protect us, because we thrive off of memory, we thrive off a pattern. Because think about this, like if we had to think about every little thing that we did, it would be too consuming. If we had to think about walking, if we had to think about chewing, if we had to think about even the drive to work, if you, after a while it just becomes repetitive. If you had to follow the directions to your job each and every day, it would take up too much time and space, and that would lead to even us not being able to thrive in our creativity. Like I was having a conversation with my friend yesterday, and we were talking about to be creative, you have to build the capacity to be bored. And not a lot of people want to acknowledge that you think, oh, I need to find my creative flow, or I need to find my creative genius, I need to find what I'm good at or what I'm creatively called to do, but you're not willing to be bored. And like the only time you really get into that creative flow is kind of from a space of nothingness, from a place of being empty, to where now you're in the space to, I want to create something because there's nothing here blocking my flow. There's nothing I'm holding on to. And it reminded me of, if y'all haven't seen the Michael Jackson movie, this is, I guess, like a spoiler, when he was making the Thriller album, he was like relaxing in the pool, but he was like basically in the sun doing nothing and just like on a floaty in the pool. And they had asked him like, what are you doing? And he was saying, I'm finding my alignment or something like that, because if I'm not available to God, he'll give my song to Prince, which I thought was funny. But it was like, you have to make yourself available for the things that you want, and the things that you don't even know you want to create yet. Like, you know, you want to be creative, you know, you have things to put out into the world, but you haven't gotten that beat yet. You haven't gotten the lyric yet. You just know you want to create a song, if that makes sense. And so I thought that was a good way to look at being creative. Is like, you actually don't need to work on your creativity. You need to build your capacity to be bored. That most times when you're bored, you're trying to get out of boredom. That like, you're trying to fill that space with other things. So you want to clean up, you want to dilly-dally and go shopping or whatever, and like filling the space. But how often are you giving yourself maybe an hour, 2 hours to just do nothing? And essentially, I guess it would kind of just be like meditation. But when I even think about doing nothing, you got to find things that doesn't require logic, that doesn't require you to actually think and be actively doing something. So even if it's just laying around watching TV, you are intaking something. But I think like having hobbies like knitting, coloring or painting, things that you could do that doesn't require like your thought process to be actively working, basically. I don't know, that was kind of like a side quest because I didn't mean to even start talking about that. The next one was, sometimes expansion has been linked to a loss of connection, overwhelm, rejection, or being too much, which is what I was initially talking about. That like, your excitement might also be connected to emotions you're not ready to process. So if excitement is connected to a loss of connection, then you're not going to want to be excited, because then you also feel like, if I'm excited about something, does that also mean I'm going to lose out on relationships? Does that mean I'm going to lose out on connection? So even the example with Mason and Jameer yesterday, he was excited about something. She was basically like, do I look like I care? And which also made him feel a sense of disconnection of like, you don't care about the things that I'm excited about. So if he wants to stay in connection with her, if he cares about her being excited with him, then he's going to have to tone down his excitement in order to stay in relationship with him and or with her. And just think about that in terms of friendship, since we've been talking about friendship. How many times do you not want to share something going on in your life with somebody because you know they're not going to be happy for you? You know they're not going to support you. Especially, I feel like this is really big if you start content creating. Because you hear this all the time amongst content creators that once you start posting and you start putting yourself out there, then you're going to see how little the people who know you in real life support you. The people who know you in real life. And the thing that bothered me about this the most is that the people in my real life who don't support me online will also pick up the phone and be like, oh yeah, I seen your post, that was good, but you didn't like it, or you didn't comment or share it or repost it or nothing. So you want to have a personal conversation about what I just talked about online, but you don't want to show your support online. Which personally, I think people like that is because they done talked about you with somebody else, and they don't want nobody else to know that they support you. Either that, or they don't want you to get like too big for your britches. They're like, I don't want to support you when I already see other people support you, and so then, you know, I don't want to like make your head big of like, oh, you doing something online, which I think is so ridiculous. But I think that is the thought. But if you care about the people close to you and their opinion, and you're willing to shrink yourself to stay in connection with you, that's another form of self-sabotage. And this is why a lot of creators, even Carlissa talks about this, like when she started really posting online, she blocked everybody, like all the people close to her, which eventually I had to do too. That like I pretty much have blocked most, if not all, of my family on social media. I was brought up being told I was always doing something. I was brought up being told to always be doing something, or I'm lazy. Ooh, me and my friend talked about this yesterday. Of like, I think the previous generation had this idea that if you're not productive, you're not in this space to receive. That like you have to be doing something, you have to be producing in order to receive. And like, if you're lazy, that means basically like you ain't gonna be shit. And it's like, that is such a harmful thing to teach, especially I think children, because it teaches them to block out their creativity so early in life. If you have to have a good relationship with boredom, which boredom can also look like laziness because you're not actively doing anything, then that also creates this block of feeling like I can't be creative. Let me see. That's what happened with me in the TikTok thing. I knew my folks was going to downplay me to the left. Yeah, I think I felt that way up until probably like the last year. which is why I never really posted on TikTok. I barely posted on Instagram. I feel like I posted more on YouTube. And then I found YouTube to be like my platform of freedom, because I knew like the people in my personal life wasn't looking at my YouTube, versus like my Instagram, it was like my family on top of like people I went to school with and shit like that. Even now, still I still weave in and out of like what do I want to share on Instagram, not so much because of the people there, but just because like who follows me, but more so like Instagram don't be talking about nothing for real. But initially it was because it would make me like question myself. I have two friends that go balls to the walls in support of everything I do. They are the only ones. Yeah, I have one friend like that like no matter what I do, she gonna support it. And same with her, that like, because she does content creating, but she's more on the Instagram side. I think because hers is more like appealing to the eye of like aesthetics. But like this things that she posts about, like it's mostly like baking, gardening, things that I don't do for me, but I love for her. Like I love when I see her in the garden, because I know the garden makes her happy. So when I see her post pics in the garden, I'll be like cheesing, because I love that for you. Which I never understand, like from a friend or family perspective. If I know this is you, I'm going to love that you're showing up and sharing yourself online, just because I feel like that is you. At least you're not online pretending to be something that you're not. And I think especially being in like the like spiritual mental health space, is like for a minute it made me really have imposter syndrome, because it made me feel like, are they not supporting me because they feel like that's not who I really am? But then I had to start thinking about it, like, no, you want to have these conversations though in real life. You're calling me to vent, to ask for advice, to be a shoulder to lean. So like, you want this aspect of me, but you want it for you. You don't want me to share it. My daughter pointed out to me last week. She said, I clean too much. The house is already clean. You know what? Since the boys have been gone, me and Jameer was talking about that last night after I dropped them back off to their dad. That we haven't been cleaning I feel like when the boys are here, I feel like I have to clean all the time because they're messy. But since it's been me and Jameer, I almost kind of feel like I haven't done hardly any cleaning. And it's like, okay, you need to find your balance with this, because you can't completely not clean and like also not have to clean as much. I'm trying to find my balance with that. But I do think cleaning is a form of trying to stay busy, especially if it's already clean, everything's already together. And like, I think if you're not used to being bored, you're also not used to having peace, because I think boredom and peace go hand in hand. That like, even think about in terms of dating, the guys that were probably good guys and probably not as, for the thrill and not as exciting to be around, were probably just peaceful. And like, but you wanna hood nigga instead, and it's like, sure, he gonna bring the excitement, but he also gonna bring some other shit with him. So it's like, do you want to be chill and bored and peaceful and at ease, or are you trying to do it for the thrill? She said sit down somewhere. They definitely want to hoard you. Yeah, I feel like people that want to hoard you is it just exposes that they're siphoning your energy, because they want to make sure that you can still keep up with the energy you're supplying them. That like, if you have other outlets to put your energy, then I'm not going to have the energy that I've been relying on to get from you. And so like I need you to dial it back in all these other areas so that when I need you, you are here for me. Absolutely. I noticed that I'm not never had peace. Yeah, I do think like once you have peace, I think you could also sabotage peace too. That like if you, even if your nervous system is not used to being calm, if your nervous system isn't used to not having things to do, you will start to create chaos because that's what your nervous system is used to. Which I really cannot wait till Thursday's live is going to be so good because I want to talk about my regression and like all the different ways that this I regressed to age 5 or 6, and all the different ways that she shows up now, it was just like so mind-boggling. I would have never pieced them together because it's like in totally different areas of my life that I would not have associated with that particular thing. So it was just, it has made me really, really excited about tomorrow's workshop. So I really hope like if you've been interested, please join because it's going to be good. Not only is it going to be good because I just know it is because of my own personal experience, but even it aligns with the astrology of tomorrow. So tomorrow, Venus and Jupiter make a conjunction in Cancer, which is naturally healing and abundant, and it just gives an extra like to what we're going to be doing tomorrow. So I'm also excited about that. Let me get back to my notes because I feel like that made me go left. So next, let me see. Bring in the inner child layer. I'm gonna have to leave the notes alone. Hey, Jillian. At what time? It's tomorrow at 6 Central Time, so 4 p.m. your time. But I also have some exciting things to share on Thursday outside of sharing my regression as well. Back to self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is proof that you have a fear of freedom. And how you will know if you are self-sabotaging is if you have a lack of freedom. If you have a lack of time, you have a lack of money, you have a lack of love, you have a lack of connection. Please explain the way of the rose. Oh, okay. If you have a lack of any of those things, it is through self-sabotage. And you may think that it is because of circumstances. You may think that it's because all the ways society makes us believe that we are restricted. Really, it is the pattern behind it that is what's causing the self-sabotage. It's what's causing the lack of freedom. And this is why I'm very cautious of... Hey, Essence, you just but thank you. I'm so conscious of not aligning to societal beliefs around womanhood, around motherhood, around blackness, that because we are those things that we should be limited or that we are limited. Because it's not so much that we are limited because of being a woman or being black or any of those things. It is because they already know our patterns. That a lot of our patterns are and were intentionally installed through slavery, that they know that those patterns are very hard to override and that they'll continue to play out, which is like what they talk about in the Willie Lynch letter is true. That like that was the programming that they were doing, not necessarily in how they were describing it in that letter, but what it would take for somebody to wake up from that level of programming is now happening, is now available, which is also why I say like you can really hold ancestors and the women that have came before us to the degree that we want to, that like some of that we're gonna have to let go of the judgment around them, because for them to have did an override of those programming would have been damn near impossible. That like we are just getting to the informational age where we are learning about subconscious reprogramming, where we are learning about knowing how to utilize access to our subconscious mind and to our Akashic records. Yes, we had access to it before, but it was also shunned. So a lot of our ancestral rites, a lot of our ancestral practices are now being explored in a new way, to where we're not demonizing them as we have in the last couple of decades. And it really is fascinating to me, because I think the last couple of generations were slowly building us up to where we are now. And I can only imagine what it would take. Like, we're the next two generations ahead are going to be, especially as because I think like subconscious reprogramming and hypnosis and things like this, and I've talked about this before, I think it's going to be highly sought after in the next 10 years. That at some point they're going to realize talk therapy is very limited and it only repeats the pattern. It doesn't help you override it. And so I am excited to be doing this work and to be talking about it early, because I think looking back, I'll be excited. Like, see, I told y'all. Just put on some Rose Essential. Now this is off subject, but I will talk about the Way of the Rose. The Way of the Rose is the video or the TikTok that I had that went viral back in November. Which, if you look at the comments, some of them are hilarious because they thought I was talking about a vibrator. I'm like, how did y'all get that out of that? But okay. The Way of the Rose is, in my opinion, a blossoming of female consciousness, of bringing female consciousness into the body. So I always talk about this, that like women live in their internal world, and we need to have practices to come bring our internal wisdom, knowledge, and knowings into the body, into the material world, versus where men need to learn how to go inward. They need to learn how to go into their emotional world, go into their intuition, because that's not where they live, versus we live in that space, but instead we are here on earth learning how to become human. And so I think the Way of the Rose, the reason why I was talking about it from a place of, I guess how y'all describe me, of being ethereal, is because I think most, if not all, women carry this essence of divinity that we are meant to bring to the world, because it is a frequency and an essence of love. But I think women who embody it also carry like the archetype of mother. And mother not in the sense of you have birthed a child, but mother as in responsibility. Mother as in you have accessed mother, as in the goddesses of all goddesses. And I talked about this, and I don't know why, but like last week up until now, like none of my videos, I'm like, am I shadow banned or I don't know. But I talked about this on Friday's Venus message, or Venus Day. I was talking about Hathor, and Hathor is one of the goddesses that I feel like not many people talk about. Which Hathor is not one goddess. Hathor, in my opinion, is more of a consciousness that each of the goddesses that are talked about, so like Isis, Yamaye, Oshun, all of the goddesses embody the energy of Hathor. Because like when Hathor started to open, I guess, myself to its energy, it kind of announced itself as the Hathors, as in like plural. And so the Hathors is a frequency and an energy of love that wants to move through you. And so in order for this energy, the way of the rose, to move through you, it also has to clear the pathway to move through you. So whatever experiences of love, whatever energetic memories that blocks women from fully embodying this energy, I feel like gets cleared out. And that's how I would describe the way of the rose. The way of the rose is a embodiment of love, and not a romantic love, not even a relationship type of love. Is more so a essence of divinity type of love. So I hope I answered that. Are you saying the way of the rose is being the divine feminine? Yes, it's being the divine feminine, but not in femininity that you can put on. It's not femininity that you can cloak yourself in. It's not glamour magic. It's not even deity worship. It is, in my opinion, shadow work through the lens of love. That I am willing to see myself through all dispositions, and I will still love what I see. So much so that I will allow this energy to walk with me throughout life, and I will embody this energy of love and hold it in connection with everything that I do. So everybody that I meet gets to experience love through me, because I am embodying it. And I think that is a little different from, I think, how most people talk about the divine feminine, because it's not, the way of the rose is not associated with, I think, being a woman or being female. It's, in my opinion, more of a spirit. This is also why I think not every woman carries it. Not every woman has access to it. Every woman has access to embodying the divine feminine because they have a womb. But the way of the rose is, I think of it as like a priestesshood. That's why I was saying in that video, you know it when if you are on the path of the rose and you are a daughter or a priestess of Hathor, you can feel and notice it on other women. I can't really pinpoint it. I could see it, I could feel it, and the closest thing I can say is it's an essence. And like in that video, like if you look in the comments, most people were talking about like Beyonce. A few people mentioned Solange. Now I do think Solange has it. So like most people would. I didn't see the video. Oh, I thought that's why you asked. So if you go on my page, it's the first video. It's pinned on my page because that was the video I had that went viral. So it's so interesting you asked that. But I thought that's why you asked. But in the video, on that video, a lot of people were asking about like Beyonce. Another person that I feel like has it is Debbie Allen and Felicia Rashad. And I think they have it because their mom had it. I don't know. I feel like it's a certain regalness or royalty. I don't know. I feel like I just notice it. But typically the people that you see it on, I feel like aren't also in the spotlight. It's kind of almost like they're cloaked in a way. I saw something in which you quickly referenced it, but didn't explain it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't talk about it often because I feel like I'm probably not good at explaining it. But it's also a book that talks about it. He talks about it more in a deity way because it was written by a man or I guess a couple because they're married. But it's called The Way of the Rose. And the thing about The Way of the Rose too is I was going to make a video about this on Friday that you cannot call to Hathor. That's what makes I think Hathor different than the other goddesses. That there is no hold on, y'all. Somebody at my door. Sorry. Those Mikey little friends. But I was saying with Hathor, I don't think you can call upon Hathor like you can other deities. That Hathor comes to you. Because Hathor typically comes to you through despair. And I guess it is like a cry out in a way that she appears, but I don't think you can intentionally like leave offerings and like how you can call on other deities and goddesses. I don't think Hathor is the same in that way. I think you could honor her and have like reverence for her and maybe like leave offerings, but that's not going to like summon her if that makes sense. But also, I don't think of deities in the same way that most people talk about them. Because I don't think deities the same that like Oshun and Isis and all the goddesses. I think of them the same that I think of Jesus. That it's a consciousness, and really it is the same energy, just a different embodiment of it. So like. I always give the reference that like in this lifetime I'm Valerie, but I've had many lifetimes. All lifetimes I've always had the same essence. So you have but in each lifetime, I gain a different level of consciousness. That's why we continue to reincarnate here on earth, that we are here to expand our consciousness. So each deity has a different level of consciousness, even though it's the same essence. And so even like in this lifetime, I still have access to those other consciousnesses, but it's not a part of my identity in this lifetime. I hope that makes sense. But I don't even know how I got there. Oh, because we was talking about the way of the rose. Let me go back to my notes. I really came on to talk about self-sabotage. And why addressing self-sabotage before you really start to get into your healing work, I think is priority. Because if you never address self-sabotage, you won't gain a sense of safety. So like in terms of the nervous system, and in terms of like making changes, transforming, doing hard things, it's not possible to really embody those things if you don't create safety. And so you'll read the books, you'll do the webinars, you'll do the workshops, but you'll still repeat that pattern because your body doesn't feel safe enough to establish a new pattern. So even if you're aware of the pattern, even if you become conscious of like, this is what I'm doing, you won't be able to override your nervous system to actually do the changes that's necessary. And so with the regression, why I like regression so much is because you get to bypass those conscious blocks that the body is holding on to. When you do a regression, we're entering into the subconscious, and in the subconscious you're able to process things from a level of heightened awareness to where what you would sabotage in your conscious state, you won't be able to in your subconscious state, because it becomes separate in that way. In that way, you do get to override the body in that way of creating a new pattern, because you're fixing the pattern before you're fixing it from a higher perspective before it even comes down into the body. So I always give the analogy of like, if you've seen what's that cartoon about emotions? I'm trying to think of it. If y'all know what it is, let me know. Hey KJ. Inside Out, yes. So if you watch Inside Out 2, remember they had to go deep into the memory bank in order to change out of her being either, was it sadness or anger? It was anger that had to control. If you don't go into the memory bank to change that pattern, they couldn't do anything else until they got down into the memory bank. That it was locked up in there. And it gave a good example of how your subconscious will protect itself. She wasn't letting none of them other emotions come down there, so much so that she just had wreaked havoc down there, and no other emotion was even able to be displayed because she had taken control. That is an example of what I mean by self-sabotage. If you have a pattern to block out the good, block out the desire, you will see that in all aspects of your life. So the limitation isn't because you can't. It isn't because you don't know, you don't have the wisdom, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the know-how. It's because you don't feel safe, which goes back to self-sabotage is proof that there is a fear around freedom. Hey KJ, hey Cozy Rosie. Okay, I think that was on. who came in. And once you get to establish a new pattern of safety, then you can get into the good stuff. Then you can get into like, okay, what is my relationship with receiving and having abundance? What is my relationship with my love patterns and connection? What is my patterns around being perceived and seen? All of these different areas are stemming from your safety. It's stemming from a lack of safety and from self-sabotage. That like at all costs your nervous system is going to try to predict itself and try to control its environment. So unless you establish a sense of safety, all of those other areas are going to be really hard to address and going to be really hard to make any real changes. So even with the workshop, at the beginning, I want to set the intention. So if you've already signed up, set your intentions of what you want. And I really want to tap into the energy of desire. So really think big, not just something small like, I want to make $20,000 this year. No, I want you to think about like what almost feels scary to say out loud that you want. What would you want that feels right now impossible? What feels like it would be exciting, so exciting that you wouldn't want to tell nobody else about it? That like, I couldn't tell nobody until this came to fruition. That like nobody would believe that this is even possible for me. And so like, think about those things and jot them down. Because if you get to the root of your self-sabotage, you'll get to see why you don't want to tell nobody. Why you feel like, oh, that's even scary to say out loud. And what I love about regressions is you never think the block is the block. Like you might think the block is, oh, I grew up in poverty. 9 times out of 10, it's not that. Like, I'll give an example. I had did a regression back in January for somebody, and she wanted to do the regression about her business. It was the beginning of the year. She wanted to know, like, she was uncertain about where her business was going because she was changing things and she didn't know, like, if certain things would work out. And so she wanted the regression for that. So she already knew she had uncertainty there, and that was kind of creating the block of her being excited about being creative in this like unfamiliar place or this new creative lane. Because I think whenever we have uncertainty, it just means you're in a creative space. If you are being creative, you're also going to be uncertain, which also ties back to, in order to be creative, you're going to have to be okay with being bored. You're going to have to build your capacity for boredom and uncertainty, because you can't predict what you're going to create creatively if you want to be organically creative. Now, if you want to sit down and copy something, as in, this is the image you want to paint, and you're just going to copy it or mimic this art. But if you want to create something that has never been done, if you are pulling something out from the ethers into this earthly plane, you're going to have to become a open vessel in order to do that. And I think the block with that is we don't give ourselves permission to be empty. That we have so many attachments that it's very hard for God, the divine, higher power, however you want to put it, to move through you in order to create something organically. And that it may be a relationship, it may be your attachment to the outcome. If the outcome means money, as in, I want to sell this painting and I'm gonna sell it for $10,000, so it got to be good. That's putting a lot of pressure on yourself to create something you don't know how to create yet. That, like, there is something very special about creating just for the fuck of it, just for the art of putting something out. Which I learned that with the 7-day ebook, that like typically that probably would have been something I put together and I would have sold, or I would have been, because honestly that is why I hadn't created it before. Like, I know a few people are asking for this, or I keep talking about devotion, let me package this up and sell it. Instead, I just wanted to create something because I had an abundance of energy, which that also makes me think about something. Most people think creative energy has to come from this bubbly sense of inspiration of, oh, I feel inspired because I've seen this artist do this thing. Even though the 7-day devotional was a product of my love and devotion, that was created from a place of anger. But anger and passion are two sides to the same coin. When I created that, I had the energy of anger. I just alchemized it to it being passion, because I had already had the idea to do the devotional guide. Yeah, me and Valerie made it. I already had the idea.